Hello, welcome to Wearing History. We're going to do a tutorial for patch pockets and pocket flaps. So the first thing that you'll do is find this turn under line. You will make a clip at the line there so you know where to turn your hem allowance down. Sped this up a little bit so that it's easier. Now notice that the top edge is slightly different than the grain. You're going to press under 1/2 inch. I've stay stitched it here that you can see. Pressed under 1/2 inch towards the inside, and then you are going to turn it on those little nips that you made right there and right there. So see how I do that with the seam allowance facing up? You're going to grab your pins and you're going to pin right there. You can use this for the Montana blouse, for the smooth sailing blouse, for pretty much anything with patch pockets. It's a good little technique to have. And doing it like this, where you turn under the seam allowance here and pin it, is going to keep you from getting a weird visible edge where you turned everything under and in at the corners. So after you've pinned it, just like this, you're going to stitch down at the edge. I'll show you where to do that next. Right there, 1/2 inch, since this certain pattern is 1/2 inch. If you have a different seam allowance, use a different seam allowance. So I stitch and back stitch like that, and then I clip my corners, and notice that I've also done a stay stitch all the way around the outside. That's with a basting thread so that you can pull it out easily, but it helps you to know where you can turn everything under. If you're going to serge it now after you've turned this in so that the inside of your pocket is finished. Then you're going to turn it towards the inside like this and press it when you press that fold under. So you see mine is serged now. And then I also have turned it on those corners. Sometimes it's difficult. You may want to baste the curves on the outside of the curved pocket just so you get a nice smooth like half circle. After you've marked your pattern piece, you're going to align it. With this pattern, the Montana blouse, make sure that the longer edge is going towards the armhole. On the pattern piece, it'll say front edge on the pocket piece, so you know which one goes towards center front. I pin my most crucial points. Make sure you pay attention to the grain so you can smooth everything nice and smooth. And then I pull it down and I pin towards the center of the pocket. So like make sure that you're not pulling things really weird. After I've got all of the main grains like up and down and across, then I will do the corners to make sure that I don't get any weird rippling or anything like that. You can use as many pins as you want. Just make sure that it's really secure. After you do this, you're going to take it to the machine and you are going to top stitch. I did it 1/8 of an inch about, or like between 1/16 and 1/8 of an inch all around the outside edge. But you can use a little pin to poke under those bits that are being fussy, and then just stitch it and make sure you back stitch at the beginning and at the end. After it's stitched, it looks like this, so you can see that everything is perfectly in place. Then you pull out your basting thread. So I'm looking for it here, and grab your little seam ripper and then just pull it out. There it goes. You can grab the little loop and get the other bit out. You can see I'm going to fuss with it in a second. Sometimes you need to get a pair of tweezers in there to get it, make sure you can get it out. And then I'll give it another final press. There's a cattail. I've made sure to cut my pocket flaps, and I also have interfaced 2 of them so that I can have a nice crisp edge. Use like a semi-lightweight interfacing. You also want to mark your buttonholes because you're going to do the buttonholes before you attach it to the shirt. So there will be 2 pocket flaps that are interfaced, and that's the side I do the buttonhole on. And then there will be 2 that are not interfaced. And then you stitch around the outside 1/2 inch. You can see that I've done that here. And then just like before, you're going to clip your corners. I trimmed down my seam allowance to about 1/4 inch so that you don't have extra bulk. And you can see that I just kind of clip away. Make sure that you get enough away at the point, but don't cut too closely or else you'll get some fraying. That's what it looks like trimmed. So I'm going to do the other one so you can get a double visual. Sorry, I went off screen a little bit. There we go. I cut straight across right there, you can see, so that I won't get any bulk in that little point. And you can always trim more away later if you turn it right side out and you notice that you've got some bulk. So you can get in there with a little point tool. It's like a little plastic thing. Here I go for it, looking in my sewing stash. So it's like the intermission while I find my little point thingy. I don't know what they're called. Something by Dritz probably. There it is. So get in there and get your points really nice. Get down in the front, but don't push too hard or else you'll make the grain go all wonky. Just ease it in just enough, and you can wiggle it between your fingers to make sure that it turns nicely. I've sped everything up a bit on this video, so you're not just watching me sew pockets forever. So there we go. Then you're going to give these a nice press. And there they are. And then I top stitched just like I did with a pocket, and I also serged across the top, and I stay stitched a 1/4 inch. You can see that my buttonhole is right there. So next I'm going to make the buttonholes and cut them, and there they are. You can see that it's not on grain at the top. That's the way it's supposed to be. The stripe makes it really obvious, so it's kind of helpful for the tutorial in that way. Now you grab your fronts and make sure that you've got your pocket going like that, so you can see the longer edges toward the armhole. Now the line on your piece is not where the pocket lines up. You can see me trying to figure it out. It's actually where the stitch line will be that attaches it. So I flushed mine right up next to the pocket, and then that made it about 1/2 inch above that, which is accurate for the seam allowance. When you fold it down towards you, make sure that the pocket will align with the pocket flap. So you should have a beginning and ending mark on the pocket flap stitch line, which is on your pattern. You see I pin it here, and then I go, oh wait a minute, I'm going to need to have a guide for my 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I just double check it to make sure it's right. I got really lucky that stripe matched on one side. And then I remembered I should probably mark it. So here's a couple pins. You might want to mark your 1/2 inch before you actually pin them to the shirt. That's actually a lot easier than what I've done. So 1/2 inch right there for your seam allowance. Grab your little ruler. These clear rulers are amazing. Make sure you grab one if you haven't already. And then I use my chalk, something that will come out in the wash. Make sure that you test it on a scrap first. And then I did that. Then I stitch it down 1/2 inch on that chalk line, and I fold it down. After this, you can press it, or you can just use your fingers and hold it down. It's a lot easier when top stitching than it is assembling other things. And I will stitch 1/4 inch from the fold at the top there. The edge of my foot is a 1/4 inch, so it's really helpful. If you notice that the end is peeking out with serging, just use it a little bit there. Thanks very much. I hope this helped.